You were listening to episode 140 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and in 15 minutes or less we can save you 50% in today's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
That was a reference in the game? That particular reference?
You know what? I don't know, but I figured I would make a reference, and geckos are geckos. So
Yeah,
we're not
that's
talking
true.
Gecko,
Okay.
we're talking Gex the Gecko.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to be entering the Gecko this week on Gex 64. And dude, it was interesting for sure. A lot of interesting references from back in that day and age. But that being said, we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and talk about, as normal, our pickups and are currently playing. So, as I said last week, I would be picking up a copy of Moss on the PlayStation 4. That finally came in the mail. And then I've got my eye currently on a couple of games on limited run games. There's like a multiplayer horror type game on there that caught my eye the other day. And then there's also, what is it? Ghouls Ate My Neighbors, because Zombies Ate My Neighbors is on there as well. I think it's Ghouls. They have the physical copy for that. If it's going to be getting released as well. So definitely a few things I'm interested in picking up, but nothing in particular that I've got right now as of today other than Moss. And then as far as my currently playing, dude, Ori is just amazing. Absolutely love it. It is one of the best platformers I played in some time. So I'm super excited about it to keep playing it. My wife and I are definitely enjoying it. And we'll kind of see where that takes us. I think the next game after we beat Ori, which we're at about 25% right now in that game. So the next game I think we're playing is likely Tomb Raider, but it's her choice on game. So because we kind of flip flop, I'll pick the one game that we play together, and then after we beat it, she picks the next one. So it's her choice, and I'm thinking she's going to say Tomb Raider, but I'm not 100% sure. And I played a little bit of Apex Legends this week. So Justin and I actually hopped on, and we were playing the new game mode Arena, which I hadn't played yet. Dude, it's so badass. It's like 3v3, and it's a best 2 out of 3 rounds. And then, like, say for example, and you have to win 2 in a row. When after so say for example, you win the first one, you win the second one, then you win the third one, you win, right? But if you and your opponent continue splitting like 1-1, 2-2, you have to win 2 in a row to go past that until it hits 6 rounds, and on the 7th round is a sudden death. So it's in a sense kind of like the NBA or like baseball, right? Like you have to win X amount of games out of 7. In this case, it's kind of weird how they stagger it, but end of the day, dude, a lot of fun. You get to actually pick up currency to start out, and you pick like different weapons based on the currency you have for a loadout and different types of abilities and items. And then you go 3v3 in like smaller, like straight and narrow levels to try and kill each other off. And I had a blast, dude.
Yeah,
super easy to play.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I think it would actually bring you back into Apex for a little bit because it's so quick and easy to play, dude. You don't have to dedicate a good like 20-30 minutes for a match, because some of those matches can get done in 2 minutes.
See, that's one of the things. It's like I almost prefer something that's going to have like a little bit more investment, because it feels like, I mean, sometimes when you're playing Apex, like I do remember it would be like a grind where it's like, okay, I got to start all the way at the bottom and start running around the map and just try to survive the drop again and blah, blah, blah. Like that does get kind of redundant after a little while.
Whereas this is a little different, because you're continually going against the same team, you drop in, right? And you start your loadout, you go and fight, and you could change your loadout at any point. So you get what you want. And then say your team dies in like 10 seconds, you're back to the loadout and you're back to playing right away. Like there's no having to go back, pick your player, drop, find items, potentially get killed by an entire party like right off the bat. Like you're good to go, and you just keep playing, and you play however many rounds, and when you finish you start the next round. It was fun. You'll have to give it a shot for sure. And then the next one is Biomutant. I'm still playing that. I wouldn't say it's gotten better, but I feel like I'm kind of nearing the end of the main quest to complete the game. So most of these games, like if you think about like Skyrim, or if you thought, or just Oblivion, or even Fallout, right? you have the main quest, you have all the side quests, and then your main quest can kind of expand based on what you're trying to accomplish. But what I'm trying to do right now is just go through the main quest, beat it, and be done with it. So when I looked it up on how long to beat, it was like 10 hours or 15 hours or something like that. God, I think it's actually 10 for the entire main quest. And then like the entire game itself is like 50 or 60, I want to say. So I'm just kind of along the lines of let me go ahead and beat the main quest and be done with it. And then put it aside and be like, all right, cool. Like I played the game, I beat it, I'm finished. Like that's it. And then I can move on to my next thing, which will most likely be God of War. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's all my stuff, dude.
No,
I
it
guess the
isn't.
last little thing. What's that?
You're missing something.
What am I missing this week?
So I got a delivery for John for the weirdest looking game called Green Lava Studios.
Oh yeah, that
And
was an
it's got
April Fool's Day.
a guy holding a giant jar of mayo on the front. And for those that don't know, John hates mayo.
Yeah. So that game in particular, I forget the title of it. It's like Mr. Mayo or something like that. 1 and 2, and you literally click the mayo jar, and every time you click it, different achievements happen and different things happen. So like,
Oh,
for
My Name is
example,
Mayo
my
and
name is Mayo
Mr.
1 and 2. Yeah.
Masagi.
Yeah, that one. See, I got them mixed up. But yeah, you can pretty much get Mr. Masagi to mayo jar to strip. It's actually pretty interesting. But yeah, that was actually an April Fool's Day purchase for limited run games. It's like, well, I missed out on the last one that they had. That was April Fool's. So let me pick this up, and I thought it was pretty interesting.
A part of me was afraid to tell John that it came because I was like, did I order him like a present and forget about it? Because that would be like the perfect joke thing. Like if I saw that, I would have totally bought it for you.
Yeah, I forgot I bought that. I seriously did. And you're like, I got a package. I'm like, let me check what I ordered. Oh yeah.
Like I was trying to
S-
log into Limited Run and like I don't even have an account there. I was like, I couldn't have ordered this.
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest, like why it even came to you, because I changed all of my address stuff. In fact, that game in particular, I had already moved. Like I had my address in place, so there would be no reason for me to have, ordered that and sent it to your place. I don't know
Who
why.
knows?
But the other last thing I did is finally got my couch in the game room. We have got pictures on. I think I've got them on Twitter. I don't have them on Facebook, but I've got them on Twitter and Instagram. So of course, check those out. Twitter's gonna be at Game Deflators. Instagram is going to be at the Game Deflators, along with Facebook at the Game Deflators as well. And then of course, find us on thegamedeflators.com. And I'm not saying look at my couch. I'm saying look at the overall scene of the room. So the couch is in place. We've got several shelving units. We just put in like cube units behind it, where now I have all my game statues, and dude, it looks pretty solid. I'm excited with it.
Yeah, I know you inspired me to start making some moves around my room, but it will not be
Yeah, for
complete
sure.
for some time. And it
The
will
Game
not ever be
Deflators.
as impressive. Uh,
Well, the Game Deflators making moves.
so moving on to me, I have pickup this week. I got the Mario Bros. Game and Watch. I was very reluctant to do so for a while, and then I know we were talking, and I was like, should I wait for that to like drop in price? And you were like, I don't think it's gonna last that long. And so I was at a Target and I saw in the case they had one left. So I bought it and I absolutely love it. And it's my favorite thing. And I have it out of the box and I'm going to be taking it with me every day, everywhere in my bag. And I love the clock on it. And it's the coolest thing ever. And I can't wait for the Zelda one. I'm not going to wait on the
Yeah,
Zelda one. I'm going to get it right away.
yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I mean,
I
we've
mean,
got a
it's
whole ton at
cool
the Walmart
till the
by me.
play date comes out. Like I'm a pre-order the play date at the end of the month, but that's going to take a few months to get here.
Yeah, I'm excited to see just this play date and see like what all jazz is about, man. Like you keep talking about this thing and you're so excited to play it, so I just got to like finally hold on to this thing and be like, all right, it's pretty cool, or be like, I could pass on it, Ryan. We'll see.
I mean, the thing that's going to be cool about it is that like as dope as this Game and Watch is, and it's like a color screen, like the Playdate is just like black and white. Like there's no it's more like a calculator kind of coloring.
Yeah.
But it's like because of the contrast, like you can see it in like almost like any type of light. You don't have to worry about it because it's really
Yeah.
bold. And then, I mean, the level of creativity that's going to be on it, because, like, for the most part, all these little systems and stuff, I mean, yeah, you can go on, you can get emulators on handheld stuff and whatever, but I mean, this will be something that's regularly updated with new stuff all the time. So it'll have like a lot of creative development for it, and everybody will be able to create their own games because of the software they're making for it. So like I definitely would love to try to see what maybe I could put together, because it seems like they've got some kind of cool system that they've developed. So yeah, I am super excited about that. I wasn't even going to talk about that, but yes, played it. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see, I guess the creative aspects of it, like you're saying, and there's gonna be a lot of games that you can only get on that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all, how it all looks and how it all plays.
So this week I have been playing that Game and Watch a little bit. I just wrote Mario on the
Ah,
outline to try to fool John. But yeah, I
yeah,
played
I
a
know.
I played a little bit of the Game and Watch, and I got to 99 in ball.
Oh, nice. That's
Game
not
A
bad.
ball. I
Game A ball.
yeah, I should play some Game B ball and see how high I can get.
Well, I'm disappointed that you haven't played Mario Odyssey, and I'm starting to think that now that the PlayStation 2 is hooked up in my loft and we have a couch, kind of feeling some Blues Clues next week. How about you?
I'll bring my handy dandy notebook.
All right, you might want to come early because remember, you got an hour of that bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Ryan? That could be our inflation deflation next week. We'll do Blues Clues. We'll let you play
So
it.
you want to play
And
too?
oh, I'm not playing. I'm just watching. I can watch and learn, and I
You have
can
to
review
experience
based
the
on that.
game. You can't review a
Oh
game
no,
that
no,
you haven't
no.
played.
No, I can. You know what? In fact, I'll just kind of chime in from my experience watching you, and you're more than welcome to take the full review next week. You got it, man. So you could take the full review, your whole experience, and I'll just kind of provide my outside opinion looking in.
I hope it's like a sleeper hit.
You know what, dude? I'd be so
Dude,
pissed.
people been sleeping on Blues Clues for 20 years.
20 years, man. Yeah, so or more actually. So yeah, that's next week. That's our inflation deflation. Blues Clues on the PlayStation 1. We finally get Ryan to play it cuz we are now in July, towards the end of
Like
July, and this man
solidly in
has not
July.
yeah, he has not beat Mario Odyssey yet, which is by far one of the easiest games he could have picked up to play and beat. And of course, Persona has not been touched. It's gathering dust. I might just need to bring that back. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at with that. All right. Anything else that you're playing? I'm guessing not.
Nope. Still painting some Warhammer stuff.
Nice. Okay, let's get into our first article this week. We're going to be talking a few things. We're talking Steam Deck, we're talking Netflix entering gaming, and then we're talking the N64 controller and why it's so damn weird before we go into our inflation deflation. So the first one we've got here, there's enough Steam Deck demand to take Steam Store down. And this is Verge, as always, and it's Richard Lawler. So before we kind of dig in too much on our thoughts, Steam Deck is pretty much a handheld PC in a sense that is being released by Valve. I'll go over some of the general specs here. You're looking at an AMD APU Zen 2 processor, 8 RDAN or RDNA 2 CUs graphics card with a 1 to 1.6 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, storage anywhere from 64 gigabytes to 512 gigabytes, micro SD card slot, Bluetooth, dual band Wi-Fi, stereo jack. It's got 2 to 8 hours of gameplay for the battery life. It's actually relatively beefy from what we're seeing, 298 millimeters by 49 and by 117. And then it has a weight of about 669 grams, which, if my kilograms and grams to pounds measurement is correct, I want to say 500 grams is around a pound point two, if I'm correct. I can never remember the
You could have
conversion.
just Googled it.
I could have, but I'm on the fly, Ryan.
How
But you know
many
what?
how
Google
many
it now.
grams is it? 500 grams?
It is 669 grams. So I'm going to say about 1.3 to 1.2 pounds.
1.10.
I was close. I was close. Okay. So that is what we got. It has a 7-inch diagonal screen and 1200 by 800 pixel. I want to say the output is what, 720p is what it's supposed to be on that, is what I
Yeah.
read. Yeah. So interesting piece of tech, right? It was just announced like several days ago. and internet went crazy, went a buzz for it. Oh, it's a Switch killer, all of this other stuff, and it's you got $5 pre-orders that you can do through Valve. I don't know if they're still up, but apparently it was absolute mayhem. Nothing like the GPU situation with AMD and Nvidia, but bad enough to where it actually took them down for a bit. So I'll throw it off to you first. What are your thoughts on this thing?
So, um, I was listening to all the people talk about this all week. I would really recommend anybody go watch the Digital Foundry video. I would say that all the time, more and more, because every time I watch their videos, they're so comprehensive and good. Like, I don't understand all the spec world stuff. They make it understandable a lot of the time, or at least I kind of get more context for what's going on from their videos, I think. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going on here where they're partnering with some type of like middleware thing that is like enhances the games and makes them better for um how they'll be handled and played. So it's supposed to be the money that they're investing into that is going to help it so that the full Steam library will be completely available. And I mean, when we're talking about the immensity and the, you know, decades of games that people would have access to instantly for no extra money, like it's not like when you buy a new Switch and you got to buy a $60, you know, game to go with it. You're just getting the thing and you've already got all the games, and if it can really handle, you know, what it's talking about, like showing like Control and Jedi Fallen Order, like, man, that's not shabby at all. I mean, it's going to be big, it's going to be heavy, it's going to have not great battery life. It's like it's definitely going to be for the person that is, you know, has an hour or 45 minutes that they want to kill twice a day, once commuting there, once commuting back. And like it's got to be PC games. And, you know, the other side of it is that you're going to be able to do all kinds of stuff. Like in the Digital Foundry, when they were talking about how it's going to be like Linux based, but then it's going to be running some sort of conversion to Windows, but since it's a full PC, you could just put Windows on it and it might even give itself improved performance. This is going to be something that I'm not interested in. I don't want to touch this world. This is going to be really, really fun for some people, but like I barely want to play PC games at a PC, let alone in a handheld thing where it just sounds like a lot of searching through forums for answers to problems that I don't want to deal with. And also, I don't have any games on Steam really. Like, it would be a new investment for me. And most of the games that I would really want to play are probably, you know, have some kind of equivalent on like the Nintendo eShop that I can just find. Like, there's tons of stuff on Switch. Like, you know,
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, like spec wise, this thing isn't bad, right? I think that
it's a cool piece of tech.
yeah, for sure. Like it's not a bad piece of tech, but Valve has a history of not supporting things down the road. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, are they going to support this thing long term? I think the what is it, the Viva or Vive, which
The
is like
Vive,
this
the
Vive.
HTC
Yeah, dude.
Vive, that's like
Yeah,
their
that's their big thing, right? Like that's the one thing that they're super supportive with. But like other prior things, like you had, I think it was a Steam box. You had the Steam little doohickey that hooks up to a TV, the little thin one
yeah,
that
Steam Link.
GameStop was selling for. Yeah, Steam Link. You've got this thing now out. Like, how much support are they going to throw to this long term? Because that's what would worry me, right? You buy into this thing and then they're like, you know what, it's not selling very well, or it's got a whole bunch of issues. We're not going to support it, and they move on. All right. So
My worry is
that's
that the speed at which PCs evolve versus the speed at which consoles evolve, like you could buy a Switch for $400 and then you could wait 5 years and you can buy a Switch Pro or a Switch OLED if you really just want the upgrade, you know? And all in all, it's probably going to be like $150 for the upgrade. But like if you spend like, you know, $400 to $600 on a handheld PC, like, are you going to do that 2 years from now? Because 2 years from now, games on PC are going to be way different, probably, and probably way better because that's like just the speed at which they go.
yeah. I totally
How are they
agree
going
with
to
you on
future
that.
proof it? when they're trying
Yeah,
to
and
keep it at the lowest benchmark that they can. Like they were saying, this thing's like half as powerful as an Xbox Series S. An Xbox Series S already has a difficult time trying to keep up with 60 frames per second and using uh enhancements to try to make it you know, look
yeah.
good at the same time.
Well, and that kind of goes into my next point here is that, Nintendo pretty much has a handheld market on lockdown, right? Like that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Others have tried to come in and take that away from Nintendo. It's not happening. With the Lite and the Switch, there's no way to give up that handheld market.
I don't think it's
So,
about them owning the handheld market. I think it's about them proving to everybody that the handheld market is a place that can work and nobody else is in the game. And it's like Nintendo being unrivaled, like that's not good for consumers and it's not good for them because that means they're leaving something on the table. Like Steam not really having their own platform since their other platforms, I mean, the Vive is one thing, like we were saying, but I mean, they don't really have like dedicated PCs. People kind of build their own PCs and then just use Steam. So them having like a proprietary platform and going at the handheld, since Sony gave up there and Microsoft doesn't really have like an interest in making their own, because the thing is, like, you're gonna be able to get Game Pass on this fucking thing for sure. So it's like now you've got a PC and you've got all of Game Pass on there, but is it going to be able to keep up? It's going to be like more like Game Pass on Xbox One rather than Xbox Series.
well, and so that's still kind of part of my point, right? Like PC gamers aren't going to be flocking to this, I don't think. Given that the specs are not going to be like as good as what you can build on your own PC, and then at the same time, like somebody like me, right? I own a Switch, I own a PS4, I own a PC. Like I have everything that I could need. Now, obviously, I need a better GPU than what I've got, and that's an issue for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I just don't see a lot of people flocking to this, and I can see it being a flop. Honestly, for me, this reminds me
I mean,
of the
with the
Game
way
Boy
that they were selling out, though, that's the issue. Like the article, it was actually about how it was like
scalping,
crashing the
scalp,
store.
100% scalping, dude.
Yeah,
Because
but
there's
people are
so
gonna
many.
buy them.
Here's the thing, man. We don't know, right? We don't know. We don't know. Yes, they could say, "Hey, it's been crashing," and there's a lot of interest, but at the same time, look at the scalping market on a lot of these devices. These are already going for like $1,200 on eBay and showing it sold, which is highly unlikely. It's more like people are putting in shill accounts to bid things up and purchase things without actually
I
purchasing
guess
them.
we'll see
So
how it plays out.
yeah, but this reminds me of Game Boy versus Game Gear 2.0. Like you got the nice thing like the Switch, it's nice and compact, it feels good, like you like playing it, and you got this beast of a console for handheld in the the game, or I guess in this case the deck. So we'll see how this all goes. But let's jump into our next article here, and this is Netflix is trying to beat competitors by adding video games. This is Frank Paletta at CNN. Actually, I don't think we've ever done a
I
CNN
was just
article.
thinking that when I was doing the outline
Yeah.
earlier, I was like, oh wow, stepping it up.
So my thoughts on this is I think Netflix has a legitimate shot to actually create some noise. And I don't say this because, the streaming market is so great, right? Because Google's already said we're not making any more games. Amazon is likely going to be on that same path pretty soon. They aren't doing so well with Luna, from what I understand. And the only reason I say that Netflix has a better shot is because they're already on your TV, right? Not a whole lot of there's Prime subscribers, right? But not a whole lot of people are sitting there watching Prime for, you know, the videos and music and stuff, right? A lot of people use Prime primarily for the fact that they can go ahead and get free shipping, which is going to be more parents and families that are utilizing it for that. Netflix is where it's at for subscribers and the base of consumers that likely are going to be playing video games, I feel.
But the
So,
thing is, Netflix doesn't have a way to connect to you. Like you interface with it through like your television remote or a console
yeah.
or something already. Like they need to be able to put a controller in your hand and connect that controller to anything.
What would be so hard about sending every subscriber to ask for a controller
Well, I
like
mean
Google
that's
did?
that's basically what they did with Stadia. Like they sent that out to everybody, but it's like they already were making Chromecast. So they just paired that with a controller, but Netflix doesn't have anything in place for any type of manufacturing. Like they have to establish all of those manufacturing chains to build controllers just to do this one thing.
With Google out of the picture from a streaming perspective, who's to say they wouldn't partner with Google on something like this? But
Stadia is still going. I mean, but they're still using it as a service platform.
yeah, but how long is that going to last? You
And
know, like
and they're gonna just go to Google, or like they're gonna try to sell out to Google. Because I mean, I don't know
who
what kind of
knows?
stuff Google would buy. I don't know if they would buy Netflix or if it would even be for sale, really.
This is no, Netflix wouldn't be for sale on that. However, consider this though, like from an interface perspective, like there's already movies on there, like interactive movies that you use the control to do things,
Yeah,
right?
but
Like your
that's
TV
not a
control.
game.
I know, but what I'm saying is that the capability is there. The other thing to consider here is that they do have a ton of subscribers, and they've already stated that they would include all of these games for free within the subscription. So you don't have to pay any additional funds to access these games, at least yet. Of course, if it becomes successful, then they'll go ahead and, have a subscription base and everything else specifically for games like a lot of companies do. All I'm saying is that while I personally would prefer Netflix doesn't enter because you know, there already is a good bit of competition. I feel it fragments it a little bit too much, and then we may not get. I don't know. I just don't feel like more competition is what the gaming market needs, right? I think everybody wants a piece of the pie, and it's just going to drive a lot of it down. I feel. Um, However, what I am saying is that I can see them being successful in this market because of the established subscriber base that they already have, because of an audience they already target, and all it is really just kind of getting a controller in your hands and throwing games on their streaming network, right? If they could just get it situated to where you can play the games via controller. If controller is the only issue here, dude, Netflix has a pretty decent shot.
Okay. So the thing that stands out to me about this is the first thing that comes to my mind is like when you go to a hotel and they've got like you could play like an N64 game somehow, like the controller's just like hooked up to the TV and
Dude,
you
you're
go.
talking 90s.
Yeah, like that's what this reminds me of. And I feel like it's just like everybody thinks that they can do this. Like, dude, Google thought that they could just do this, and they couldn't just do it. So I think that that's the issue here. Like,
Yeah.
Netflix isn't going to be able to just step up and just do this like it's nothing. Like,
And I know, yeah, I totally know that. But here's the thing, like if there's any company that can
and
do
if
it,
they're
I
not
think
going
it's
to raise the
Netflix.
price, how are they going to profit from it?
More subscribers because what they're doing here is utilizing the gaming as a way to get additional
So
people
you
onto their
think that there's
service.
people that want to stream games that don't already have a Netflix account? Who are these people? Who are these people that want to stream games and don't already have a Netflix account? I feel like
Well,
that Venn diagram is pretty much
it's
all
probably
middle.
we'll see. Like they're struggling from what I read in this article with
Man, I
like
just
boosting their
wish I had
subscriber base.
access to more Ubisoft titles. And
Well, that's
and I
you can't
also
get them
like
because
movies, but I have no idea where to find those either.
well, just keep in mind that Ubisoft has its own service, I think. But that being said, though, what I can see happening is say they don't grow the subscriber base, right? But they include these games on here and they see a lot of success through their analytics showing, hey, people are actively using this. At that point, they'd probably say, hey, trial runs over. Want to keep playing games for $2 extra a month? Think about their established subscriber base. And if they can base it off analytics and a good price point, they would drive additional revenue without actually having to do any crazy marketing other than, hey, we now have games. So we'll see. But if anyone can do this and bring in games into the market,
It
uh,
was Google.
and no, it was not
Yeah,
Google. It is definitely
it was
Netflix.
Google or it was Bezos, and if Google and Bezos couldn't do it, those chumps over at Netflix, man, just help people get laid. That's all you
I
need to
don't even
do. You're not going to
I
help
don't even know
anybody get
why.
laid. Nobody's going to Netflix and chill to Assassin's Creed.
Hey, they might. I don't even know why Google would have even tried to begin with, because at the end of the day, Yes, Google is in there for like Google Play and like in your household hold for Google TV and such, but a lot of people recognize Google for a search engine, right? Nobody kind of thinks, oh, Google is streaming service. Like I don't even know why that was a thing to begin with. Amazon, Amazon, yes, they have Prime and that's a growing base for Prime, but even at the same time, like they're now just starting to kind of get into the mode of like, hey, you can use Amazon Prime for videos, but they've always been known for shipping and products. Like it's never been this idea of, oh, well, they can do games. Netflix, I think, can jump in as like, hey, we do games as well. Now, the whole thing of like Netflix is a weird name to kind of have Netflix for movies and then you have games,
Game
but
flicks.
Game Flicks, there you go. I mean, I think that there are, if anybody can do it, I think it's Netflix, and we will see if this actually turns into anything down the road.
No.
We'll see. I think Ryan's wrong. You let us know on social media if Ryan's wrong.
Hashtag
Hashtag
John's
Ryan's wrong.
wrong.
All right. The next thing we have here is the N64 controller design was so weird. And this is Matthew Bird at Den of Geek. And sorry, let me drink some water here. But did you see this article when I posted up?
So yeah, I was looking over this and I like how they do the outline to show you like, hey, this is what the two different controllers that they Frankenstein together look like. And when you look at it in that way, it looks and makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they just at that time, I guess they just didn't feel like you could do two things with your left hand and your right hand. And that would have, I mean, had they done that to begin with, like they would have just set the world on fire, like right off the bat. Like it would have changed everything, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it definitely changed gaming regardless in controller styles. I think so. Part of it is two things, right? The first one is this game controller and Mario 64 were kind of designed for each other, is what was stated, right, by Miyamoto. And so basically saying, hey, we wanted to incorporate this joystick into this controller. And while designing Mario 64, we wanted it to function in such a way. So it only made sense to create a controller like this. I think it was also flexibility tied into it, right? So if you wanted to play older games that required just a D-pad and your A and B, you had the flexibility to do that, or you had the flexibility like in comfort as well, because it's comfortable playing with the D-pad on N64 control. Where the lack of comfort comes in is just, obviously the actual joystick and trying to hold that and hit the Z. It makes sense, for some games, but there's other games like Kirby, for example, on the 64. I want to say just use the D-pad. I don't believe it
I
ever used
love
the
Kirby
joystick.
64.
Yeah, so there's some games that actually didn't even use
Crystal
a joystick.
Shards, right?
I think it was Crystal Shards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something to consider here is, you and I just played Gex on the Brawler 64 controller, which is laid out like, kind of what we're thinking, right? Joystick on the left, nothing there, and Z buttons on the top on the shoulder, below, the standard L and R. So having played both now, both because I literally just beat Conkers with the regular controller, and then now I'm playing Gex with the Brawler. I don't know, man. I'm kind of conflicted with it. Like, it feels right on the N64 controller, but I think part of that's because it's all I've ever known. But the Brawler was super comfortable as well, and so, God, man, like it's just the design is just so flippin' weird.
You
Like
know
it
what?
really is on the 64.
I think it's just one of those things that it's like people can be mouse and keypad people, or people can be, like fight stick people. I think it's just one of those things you get used to. Like, I thought the Brawler controller was awesome. And actually, I missed something. Can I just take a pause on this topic and rewind real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody who reads this Verge article on the Steam Deck, I wanted to talk about this and I didn't bring it up. The first picture is the Steam Deck sitting there on a table and two dudes with huge fucking fight sticks playing some game. I can't even tell what it is by looking at it. It might be like Guilty Gear or something. I'm not really sure. That would never happen. Nobody's gonna bring two big fight sticks and then play on your 7-inch screen. That's dumb. That's a bad picture. Whoever put that picture there, that was a bad decision.
Oh my
Moving on,
god, it's
back to
so
the
yeah.
controller for the N64. Uh, I think that, you know, I didn't play as many N64 games, but I always liked the N64 controller. I always liked the GameCube controller. Like, I like all of Nintendo's controllers. I've never had a problem with any Nintendo controller ever, honestly. And I like that they change it up. I mean, I love that, the PlayStation controller was like basically the same forever. And I'm excited to like really get my hands on and play with a DualShock 5. But like, it's cool that even today they're making new controllers for old consoles too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's what the brawler is. And if you haven't picked one up, definitely pick it up. I think it's pretty comfortable. It is kind of missing that nostalgic feel of the N64 controller. But as this article states, like, yes, it was a weird controller, but there was purpose behind the build of the N64 controller. And as much as I hate it and think it's the worst Nintendo controller of all time, it does kind of fit its purpose in terms of what it meant historically for Nintendo. Also, the flexibility, as I noted, with the ability to switch between D-pad or utilizing a joystick and the A and B. So I can totally see purpose. And you know what? We should probably include an image on our Facebook of that like Frankenstein kind of outline so people can kind of see a little bit of what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it
Um,
it's like when somebody like breaks down like art and you see like, oh, okay, I see like the
yeah.
areas here and how they relate. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's interesting, the overall concept and reason behind it. I still hate it, but yeah, it's still pretty cool to kind of look back at that.
I love when you see
Last
like developers talk about like their controller and they're like, we made like 85 different controllers, and then you see a table and it's like they all look the same, but I
yeah,
guess they're different. He's like,
yeah, in a
this is the
sense.
one we went with, and it's like, how'd you decide that? Like, I've always just taken it as, yeah, this feels pretty good. I guess there's a lot going into that.
I think Nintendo just behind the scenes laid out a ton of N64 controllers and were like, what is the most gimmicky thing we can put into the market that people will be like, yeah, that's awesome? N64. It's just how they are, man. Gimmicky, gimmicky, gimmicky. But people love it. So, why not? Okay. We've got about 7 minutes here to crunch this, I think, with you. Gec64 Enter the Gecko was their inflation deflation this week. Crystal Dynamics was a developer, published by Midway Games, designed by Evan Wells and Bruce Straley, and it was released on the N64 in August of 1998. It is a 3D platformer. Reception back then was about a 4.7 to like 4.7 out of 10 to an 82% roughly, those types of scores. Definitely all over the place, but when you kind of look at it, more so the PlayStation version at that point in time, which obviously wasn't Gex 64, but Enter the Gecko, had higher reviews where the N64 just wasn't rated as well. Um, so that being said, Ryan, and all of those listening, I actually pulled the stats this week, which is why they're correct, and I didn't have any whammies. Just pointing that out. But what are your thoughts on Gex 64?
I think that Gex 64 was super fun, and I think it was really freaking bold to like open up with the Halloween level.
Yeah, dude. Like of all, like, and in
Anybody who
August, right?
doesn't
Like,
know Gex, little background: Gex, he's a gecko, and his thing is that he goes into like TVs and goes to like different stylized media levels is how they're broken down. So instead of like a snow level, you've got like a haunted level that's got everything from like Jason references to like Rip
well, just
Taylor's
horror movies.
Halloween Party is a
Yeah.
reference.
Well, yeah, and then like you have the Toon World, which is pretty much like Wile E. Coyote
Yeah,
and
Looney
the
Tunes,
Roadrunner.
Bugs
There's like a
Bunny.
Swiss Family Robinson type of thing, like some sort of shipwreck type level. Like it's interesting. Like when you get into these levels, you're like, oh, I understand that reference. Like it's from
It's
X.
super
Like when we,
nostalgic. These games would
yeah,
probably be totally lost on like a newer generation just because like when these games were coming out like when we were kids like it was referencing stuff that was already like 20, 30 years old. Like when was Bugs Bunny from, like the 60s or something?
I don't know, man. I don't pay attention to Bugs Bunny. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like today's generation, unless Space Jam kind of came out, right? So Bugs Bunny's kind of a relevant thing right now. But yeah, like you had the Elmer Fudd component of that, and it was like a knockoff Elmer Fudd chasing you as you're dressed like a rabbit in his part of the world for that particular area.
Hmm.
That was pretty interesting. So there were a lot of like funny references like that. And, the one cool thing about this game is just it kind of reminds you of like a Mario 64 where you have to continually go back in the level and pick up certain things. So you have like the three red dots or lights that kind of are per level, and it gives you the objectives beforehand, right? Like survive the level, collect X. In that case, it was like blood fountains or something like that for the Halloween. And then there was one other item that you had to get for that level in particular, and you just go through and you complete that objective like you would in a Mario Odyssey, Mario 64 type of game, or I guess even Mario Sunshine. And yeah, I thought it was definitely interesting, definitely a different take. And while it still had that Mario 64 vibe, um I just I don't know, I don't feel like I could get into it as much. Like the references were there and they were really cool, but the gameplay just it wasn't as good as like a Mario.
Well, and the thing is, like, I think it just has to do with maybe the containedness. Like Mario's first level, Bomb Battlefield, like, or and even like the hub world, like they're just so much more open as opposed to like you're immediately put into like, all right, here's like some pretty tight areas. Like, I mean, there's some rooms that are like large and stuff, but for the most part, there's not like a lot of exploring. You're just kind of going linearly through, you know, the inside of like a big mansion type level. Like,
Well,
I think
and
the
the other
openness of Mario made it feel like, oh my god, like I'm in the third dimension, man. Like I could go anywhere.
Well, and yeah, you're definitely right on that. Like in Mario Sunshine, for example, and even Mario 64, a little bit less, but I mean, it was on the 64, right? But something like Mario Sunshine, you had like this, and I hate to compare to an N64 game, but you got this open world type of feeling to begin with the plaza. And then you enter into a whole other world and are able to experience those other worlds. So there is that, like you said, that openness and exploration aspect tied to the game itself, and 64 to an extent, right? As well, right? You've got this whole big castle and the castle grounds and underneath and all these other places, and then you're able to go into the different levels and complete those levels. While they're not as large per se as like an Odyssey or a Sunshine, I still feel that there's a little more depth to them than something like Gex. And not to say that Gex is terrible, because it's actually a decent game. um it's just not the same. It kind of misses in a sense. In a world where you had Mario 64s and such, this kind of misses.
Yeah.
Well, brass tacks really quick, and because I know you've got to go here in a moment. Complete in box, this is running you 54.47 right now. That is a peak at this point in time. It is trending up. Actually, it's like really high up in comparison to where it used to be. A loose copy right now will run you 1625. That peaked at 1650 just several months ago. So the reason I'm not giving the dates is because like literally these peaks are right now.
Hmm.
Um, and then trending up on that as well. The most expensive version is the N64 version, of course, with the cheapest version being the Game Boy Color at a $4.31 price point loose. And of course, you're not getting the same experience, right? But I think if you were going to do a crazy comparison between two of them, I'd say comparing to the PlayStation 1. And apparently, the PlayStation 1 reviews better. It's a cheaper option to an extent. And as far as complete in box is concerned,
PlayStation 1 is
and
where I played Gex when I was a kid.
yeah, I didn't play Gex on there. In fact, I didn't play on N64. I played it on the Game Boy Color. So I had a totally different experience compared to this. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, I look at where N64 games are. I look at a game like this at 1625. It is at its highest point. I would say that's primarily because where the market is right now. Um, at 1625, I would say it's just right
I
though,
feel that.
to be honest with you. It's I don't think it's a $20 game right now. It likely will get to $20 just based on how things are. But say it was, a year and a half ago and it was at like a $10 price point, whatever it may be. I think that would have been actually deflated at that point in time. I probably would have said $15 back then. So I'd say this is just right for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely of an era, and I dig all the kinds of things it does. It is a nostalgic type of game for me. Um
Hmm.
I would say like anywhere up to like $20 would be fine for this
Yeah, I
game.
mean, yeah, I wouldn't go that high personally. I would stick at 16 to 16.25. Well, $16 obviously, and if you can get any cheaper than that, obviously get it. I think it's worth having in the collection. I think it's worth playing with a friend, kind of sitting back. It does have some fun references. It controls pretty well. Um, the enemy, it's not too difficult of a game. The music's actually pretty
Well,
good.
and I mean at
Graphically, it works.
16.25, like if you were a collector, this is definitely one of those ones that it's like pick it up, you know?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
it's not gonna get cheaper, anytime in the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah. And, I think when you look at reviews like 4.7 to 10, we've reviewed far worse games in terms of, review wise, right? So we've reviewed games that say it's 6, 7, out of 10. And we're just like, this is terrible. This actually it wasn't Mario 64, but if you didn't have Mario 64 in your hands or knew about it, Gex 64 would probably get that itch that you're looking for, I think. So, all right, man. Well, that's a wrap on episode 140. I can't believe we're on episode 140, by the way.
150 right around the
Uh,
corner.
right? It's kind of insane. Also, by the way, don't think I told you, but I started updating our YouTube
I
again.
saw that.
So,
I was like, wow, these are
yeah,
old.
yeah, right. So my wife was listening to the podcast, and she only listens on YouTube for whatever reason. And she's like checking that. Like I keep telling her to listen on the podcast application. She's like, no, no, I'm just gonna listen on YouTube. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, I skipped from episode 35 to 70. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, all right, I just got to upload all of these now. And then I found that Podbean allows me to go ahead and like download the actual video and just upload it. So super, super easy to get that done. And I've already got all the thumbnails. So it'll be pretty quick. So I'm hoping to hopefully in the next several weeks, have our YouTube up to date and then continually update that on a week to week basis. So we'll see. But that being said, go check us out on social media at the Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, at Game Deflators on Twitter. Find us on thegamedeflators.com. Leave a 5-star review, too, if you can. Not 2 stars, but 2 5-star reviews. And we will see you next week. Blues Clues for Ryan. That'll be coming down the pipe. And yeah, this has been episode 140 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.